Oje Shangi Koham Yuto Sho. And let's do the 4 limitless contemplations in English first and then Tibetan. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Sem jen tam je dewa tang de we ju tang den ba ju che dungal chi chu tang tra wa ju che dungal me pe dewa tam pa tang min ra wa ju che ne ring chak tang ni tang dra we tang nom chim po la ni pa ju che. So everybody, the absolute world needs those prayers so badly. They really do. They need them very, very badly, okay? So today, we're actually going to do the second part of a profound understanding of the prayer of Kuntuzangpo. Now, we started last week, and because there are a few people that I see that weren't here, I'll give you anyway a summary for all of you and do a couple of other things. Then we'll meditate, and then we'll go on to maybe do the actual practice of the prayer of Kuntuzangpo, okay? But I want to start with an amazing quote from Tulku Solo. And if you listen very carefully, it actually says everything about our lives. And next week, I want to actually definitely on the Tuesday do the purpose of life, because a lot of people are asking me all those questions. But if you just listen to this quote, it actually tells you everything you need to know about your life. Ever since samsara and nirvana split apart, when they split apart, we have been in delusion. Now, until samsara is emptied, everything appears as the defiled and ordinary 5 body-mind aggregates in the prison of our delusion, in the prison of our delusion. So what are the 5 body-mind aggregates? Our form, our feelings, our perceptions, our habits, and our consciousness. That's how we're living in a prison of samsara, okay? And the manifestation of the 5-fold dimension of your pure being, okay? Those are all the body, speech, and mind purified, okay? And the primordial consciousness, they have ceased. And the impure elements of perception and sensory fields arise. That's all we can see are the impure perception. And they bind us in delusion. Here, where we in delusion, the vivid golden visions have ceased. What a pity. The vivid golden visions have ceased. We can't see them anymore. We can't see who we were at all. And our visions of primal awareness and reality itself cease because of the limitations of the body and because of our afflictive emotions. Here we experience only different varieties of constant suffering. I found that quote really, really, if you think about it, I mean, what he's really saying is, hey, we turned inside out. We've got it all, but we don't know we've got it. So we're absolutely pathetic. We've turned ourselves inside out, and now we think that's the truth. And the point is, it's so sad in many, many ways. So just to give you, I'm just going to give you 15 minutes to summarize everything from last week, and then we'll go on to the actual prayer itself. But one of the most important things in the prayer of Kuntuzangpo is he tells us to relax, and he tells us to allow total presence, which is our true nature, to assume its rightful primacy. So we've got to give it back its place. It should have always been there, but because of our delusions, we've gone away from it. And we have to let it go back to its rightful place. Now, how do you do that? He says, retrieve the part of the mind stolen away by the outside object. So in other words, we're so busy seeing everything, steals away completely. It steals us away completely from everything we do. And he says, sever your attachment to the object and bring yourself back to the heart center. He says the villain is your dualizing mind, and you can only stop desiring with total presence. Why can you stop desiring with total presence? When you are in your own beautiful nature and total presence, desireless is one of the doors. There are 3 doors to liberation. One is emptiness, that nothing is solid around us. Everything arises out of that. 2 is signlessness. All these names that we put on everything are just names we've given them. If you were, it's a ridiculous thing when you look at it, because if you were from a tribe that used wood to float in the ocean, they'd see a table and they'd turn it upside down and say, wow, a lovely boat. Okay, we say, no, it's a table. It's just a sign, just a name. Doesn't have any relevance, just has relevance to your particular culture. And the 3rd one is desirelessness, not desireless, desirelessness, which means you don't mind what really happens. You're not attached to all the desirable things. If you have them, it's fine, it's great, wonderful. If you don't, tough luck, you just get on with your life. So what I really wanted to say to you, which is very important, is that this prayer, which I told you last time, and those of you who missed last time can go back for the really deep background to this prayer, because it's a terma, which means it's a live thing that Guru Rinpoche left us, that was found by this amazing knowledge bearer, Riksin. His name was Riksin Godemchen, in the 14th century. And he found this whole casket. I told you all about it. It's called the Northern Treasures. And he had, when he was about 3, or when he was actually at 11 years old, these vulture feathers appeared on his head. And then later, there were 3 of them. Later, they went to 5. So he was a really special, amazing knowledge bearer. Okay, and one of the emanations of Guru Rinpoche. And at 29, after he'd received directions to go to this cave, he discovered this blue chest and had a great wealth of termas and everything else. And in the center of this blue casket, there was one of the most important texts. It was called Kuntuzangpo Zangtel, which means immediate transfer to the dynamic of Kuntuzangpo, which is so interesting, because when you are in Kuntuzangpo is the primordial Buddha inside. It's nothing outside, it's inside. And when you are Kuntuzangpo, then you immediately have a completely different life. No more suffering, no more anything. And so it was called the immediate transference to the dynamic of Kuntuzangpo. But as Keith Dowman points out, he says, there never was a transference. And I told you about this last week, because you always were that pure mind, but you just couldn't recognize it, okay? You just alter your perception. And he says, it's so near, and yet it's so far. And he said, what is special about this prayer is that it actually appears from the Buddha's mouth himself, from the Adi Buddha, our own awakened nature, okay? He's telling you about what he sees. And it's a perfect prayer that will be answered, and there's no error. So when they found it in Tibet, it reached every department of human activity in Tibet, and wars were prevented, diseases eradicated, which is so important for us. Because if you say this prayer once a week, and you really, my prayer for the virus is not just to heal the people and heal the people who've lost people. My prayer is, may all beings, may all human beings at this point on the planet transfer their minds. May they awaken inside them, which is what the virus is about. It's just an expression of what we haven't done. And so may all beings awaken from that which is so important, and really having that prayer. So the prayer, when you do the prayer, you visualize yourself as Kuntuzangpo. Bern, you can give that picture again. And then you visualize yourself and you give the prayer and you ask for the things that you want for this planet, for all the places that are absolutely encapsulated in gunshots and violence and corruption and everything, and particularly for the virus. So when you do the prayer, that's the Kuntuzangpo with his consort, which is just the masculine and feminine, which is inside us. So when you recite the prayer, it's really good. You can Google a picture, and it's really good for you to be able to see the picture of Kuntuzangpo when you do it. Okay, so I just want to go through a couple of things from it. The first part of the prayer, the first half of the prayer, which is amazing, is called the nature of ignorance. Ignorance doesn't mean you're stupid. Ignorance means you ignore the truth of who you are. So the first part of the prayer is all about the nature of ignorance and the vision of the reality of Kuntuzangpo, which is veiled in us by our ignorance. So that pure state is veiled because we've ignored it and we've gotten hooked onto everything that is in samsara. And then, which is amazing, from the second half of the prayer, which is so amazing, he says, meditation upon the 5 forms of emotion that are really the 5 forms of your negative emotions that are intrinsically the 5 aspects of awareness. So if we could see those negative emotions differently, they would be the 5 aspects of awareness. And as Kuntuzangpo says in the prayer, everything starts with fear at its base. So if you think of murder, you think of all these particular things in the world, they all start with a fear. I need to protect myself. I need to do this. I was reading in the paper this morning that they went and stole the copper things from the hospital. I mean, how do they steal the copper cables from the hospital when they know that people are on ventilators and all kinds of things, and the stealing of that for your own greed is going to cause things to collapse, the energy to collapse in the hospital. Now, why would people do it? They're not thinking. They've got fear at the base. I must get what I need, and what I want becomes humans' motivation, okay? And what Kuntuzangpo does in the second half of the prayer is he shows you the 3 areas. Number 1, the poison. Number 2, the realm that the poison leads you to. So if your poison is anger, it leads you to live in a hell realm. Now, you know, when you see people, whether you want to think of the hell realm as a real realm or as a psychological realm, it doesn't really matter. But when people are angry people, they're in a hell realm and they create havoc all over. And then he says, as that anger grows, it becomes a real poison. And then it's violence and fear comes creeping in. And he says, he prays for people to get mirror-like wisdom. And what's our mirror-like wisdom? The mirror-like primordial consciousness means I've got the anger inside of me. I created it in previous lifetimes. And next week, I'm going to do the call of the karmic imprint as opposed to the true nature, which I think is really a good subject matter. But the primary cause is your angry imprint. From your angry imprint, you will see angry people in your life, people treating you badly, all these kind of things. But they're not the original cause. The original cause is inside. And he says, you need to look at the mirror-like wisdom. He tells you with each of the poison. So I loved it when Nikki, not Nicola, Nikki said to me, she was reading the prayer and she said, it's just so simple to understand. And it really is simple to understand, because first he says, this is how you got ignorant. And second, he says, and this is how from your ignorance, all the poisons developed and the realms developed, and you forgot the wisdoms, you forgot the primordial consciousnesses. So that's why the world's in a mess. So you don't have to go traveling anywhere to get it back. You just have to sit and be aware. And he says, what you have to do is allow that anger to come up, allow that negative poison to come up. His actual instruction is, I just want to find that actual instruction, because it's really a beautiful instruction that he gives, and I want to read it to you. He says, do nothing, reject and abandon nothing, simply be aware and let it be. Now, I was dealing with a very angry little girl the other day, and she loses her temper over everything. And she says, I can't help it. And I said, well, from now on, we're going to catch the volcano. I'll talk about this more next week, but we're going to catch the volcano right when it starts rumbling, not when it's erupting, when it starts rumbling. We're going to get all your signs that happens when the volcano's rumbling, and then you're going to open up and allow it all to be. So he says, relax. Sorry, now I lost it. I had it. Do nothing, reject and abandon nothing. Simply be aware and let it be. Now, people don't trust that instruction of Kuntuzangpo, because people say, no, I need to meddle in everything. And this is his whole prayer. Don't meddle. And you know, I've learned this in such a deep way, because so often I have things happening to me, and then I think, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And I've stopped saying that, because all you do is you get to your intrinsic awareness, and then your intrinsic awareness has action, accomplishment, knows what to do spontaneously. But when you meddle, you're meddling in those imprints, you're meddling in everything that is there. And so you actually cause it to really go hell for leather. And so when he talks about the 5 primordial consciousnesses, okay, which I spoke about last time, and we'll come to them as we do this prayer now, but just in brief, the mirror-like wisdom, which shows us our own imprint. It's just a reflection. It shows us our own imprints. The equalizing wisdom, primordial consciousness. I mean, you think about the equalizing. If any of you ever watch CNN and you actually see all the racial discrimination with the Asians, with the blacks, with all the different people, I mean, horrific racial discrimination. Now, even if you have an amazing leader who says, no more racial discrimination, I'm going to fix everything up. So that'll fix up for a while. And then another generation is going to get that anger again, and the racism is going to be there again. Okay, just think about it. So there are no solutions to the world problems except relative temporary solutions. The solution to all the racism and all of that is called the wisdom of equality or equalizing wisdom. Only when we know that every single person has Buddha nature, is awakened, will we stop having that terrible pride and saying, I'm better than you. Nothing else is going to stop it. You may have a wonderful leader. He'll stop it for a while. I just look at our country, South Africa, and I think to myself, it is such a pity that we went through the bleak years of apartheid, prejudice towards human beings, other human beings, in the most horrendous ways that make me feel totally ashamed how I ever lived through it. But then, when a being came to try and equalize that, and not to take all the whites away and have the black superior, because then you're back in the discrimination, but to use the equalizing wisdom to realize there's no separation between beings other than the wheel of life where they may be at a more inferior relative state to you. But that doesn't mean very much, because in the end, it's going to be us at the bottom of the wheel until we get off the relative wheel. And I'll talk about that next week, because I think it's really become important for me to talk about that a lot. But the point is discriminating wisdom, which happens, the negative part of discriminating wisdom is craving, attachment, and the passions, which you'll see Kuntuzangpo speaks about, okay? You recognize the emptiness of the desired object. So when somebody desires something, they can't think of anything else. They can only think of their wealth. They can only think of their passion. They can only think of their sexuality. They can only think of all of that. And so the discriminating wisdom changes that and makes you see the difference between relative and ultimate. And we're going for the ultimate. The wisdom of the Dharma Dhatu is the wisdom of reality, which we meet in the bardos, who we really are. Not this little human being with her personality, but a much greater idea, which our prayers help us to understand. And that's very important. And lastly, the action accomplishment primordial conscious is when things happen naturally through you. Now, when you understand action accomplishment, there'll never be any more jealousy and envy. Never, ever. So, because if we knew that somebody, like we know that certain of the masters have attained much more merit than we've ever attained, then we automatically have respect for them, not jealousy for them, not envy, as we do on this level, somebody prettier than us, somebody wealthier than us. That all goes away, because we've all got exactly what we've earned the right to be on a relative level. So just to give you the last little part, then I'll let you question me, and then we'll actually do the prayer. But let me just say the last part. So Kuntuzangpo talks about the ripening of these 5 primordial wisdoms. When you just realize your negative emotions, the fact that you've got negative emotions means that you've got primordial consciousness and primordial wisdom, because negative emotions are really those wisdoms. And he says, out of the 5 original Buddha families, okay, after these 5 primordial wisdom, you then have the primordial Buddha families, the original 5 families. I'm not going to go into them now, but he talks about them in the prayer. The 5 families are like the Lotus family, the Karma family, the Buddha family. These are all the aspects of us, which come, first of all, with the 5 original Buddha families. Then from that come the 42 peaceful deities. And then from that come the 60 Harukas, or I say the 48 because it's supposed to be 100 deities that come out of us. Now, a lot of people say, oh, so Melanie, what does this all mean? Once when I gave a retreat on this, somebody said to me, Melanie, you're just talking hocus pocus. Okay, that was many years ago. You're just talking hocus pocus. Okay. I said, listen, you can insult me. You can insult my teaching, that I'm giving. But please don't call this teaching hocus pocus, because that is the last thing that it is. We are living in hocus pocus, but the teaching is telling us how to live properly. So when you look at this, what does this really mean? And it's very important that you understand this, not because I'm entertaining you this morning, but because when you come into the bardos, you need to know. You need to know, who am I really? Otherwise, you miss it. And boom, on the wheel of life, you're back. And Kuntuzangpo talks about this, okay? But what happens is, out of our beautiful, beautiful presence, total presence, it's called, essence, ground, emptiness. You want to call it the God force, be my guest and call it the God force if that makes you happy. It doesn't really matter. But out of that essence, okay, 5 rays of light, pure light come out. And the pure expression of the essence is this that Kuntuzangpo is talking about. So it's still illusory because it's all going to go back into the essence, but out of that essence comes our pure nature. That's what it is. So we have 100 aspects. We have 100 aspects of our pure nature. And you can say 100 multiplied by a lot more, because each aspect has got many, many different divisions. So we have these 100 aspects of our true nature. They're all pure illusion, rainbow subtle elements, bindus, which are these beautiful, beautiful multicolored orbs, deities. And this is what we view when we go into the second bardo. If we missed seeing the essence in the bardo of dying, then we wake up and then we see. Shane, people are having a real hard time with the internet. You actually see these amazing visions of who you are. And they've got very, very bright, vivid colors. And they've got loud sound. And they've got loud sound, and they've got bright rays. And most people actually see this in the bardos and they go, oh, and they faint, if they even manage to see it. Some of them faint before when they see the clear light. So Kuntuzangpo is saying, hang on, catch a wake up. This is who you are. And what does it do to you if you're in the bardos and you happen to see this and you go, I remember this. This is me. This is my true nature. Then you're free. You're free. That's all you have to acknowledge, and you're free. Not another round after that. Once you recognize, this is really me. There's nothing super fantastic about this. It's all me, absolutely me. So what I'm saying is that he tells this, and what he's showing you is the increased scope of awareness from the center. It goes out, rippling out and out from passive total presence to active awareness. And there's a wide scope of what actually happens to you. It's amazing. You know, as I go on this journey and I begin to understand it more and more and more, I just get so excited and so inspired by it. I can't believe that we've actually got a prayer like this and so many teachings like this that we can all change right now and get off that wheel of life. And then Kuntuzangpo says in his prayer, and I send forth billions of inconceivable, ceaseless emanations in myriad forms of compassion. My compassion sends forth ceaseless emanations in every form, even in a bridge if you need it, or a pill if you need it, or a being if you need it. Anything to help beings to wake up. And this is who we are. And it's all in the prayer if we understand it. And so it's quite phenomenal. And if we don't get this, let me tell you, then we're off to actually go on another round on the wheel of life. Well, some of you may not mind, especially if you've got good karma. It's not a terrible, terrible thing to go on the wheel of life. But guys, I've had enough. Okay? If I come and teach again and I come and practice again, I do not want to teach one person at a time, or 10 people, or 20, or 30. I want to teach millions. Okay? And once you are awakened in your nature, that's what he does. He says you can send forth millions of emanations. Okay, so let's meditate. But first,
Mel,
yes,
can
go
I
on.
ask you a quick question?
Of course you can. Yeah.
Is it a little bit in our reality? Isn't it a little bit? I'm asking. Isn't it a little bit easier because we hear of all these people that actually die, and they talk about the white light. So
Yeah.
it's actually easier to recognize that than for even people that are not educated in a particular gift of a lineage that we are. They are recognizing this white light, and then they come back to share it.
Yeah, they definitely are getting an idea of what it is, but they have no idea what the meaning is. Because lots of those people who have near-death experiences come back and they say, it was a beautiful light, peaceful, they say peaceful, bright, but they have no idea about the aspects of awareness because they've never trained in it. Some of them might have trained before and then they would. So they do get an idea. People get an idea when they go into the bardo.
So they're recognizing the light, but they don't recognize it that it's their own nature.
They don't recognize the expression of the light, and many don't recognize the light at actual death, because the clear light is first, and then it goes into the expression, the pure expression of the clear light. And many people, most people don't recognize it. Now, once you've heard it, it is for you to recognize, to see, to recognize, re-know. So when you listen, I've looked at a lot of these people who give their impressions when they have near-death experiences, and definitely they have an idea that there's a light. But if you listen to lots of their interpretations, they'll say, there was this being, and this being told me to go back to my body. I haven't finished everything. So what one hopes is, and then so they'll see that being in terms of their religion, in terms of whatever they've believed in their relative beliefs. They won't understand that it's them. Okay, you have to train to understand why, because for so long we've been in the wrong habit. We've been doing this for so long. It's unbelievable. So it is important. Anyone else want to ask? Because that gives you a really good idea of what I was teaching. And then I want us to actually do the prayer. And Bern, you've got that prayer in English type of the song. Okay. Because then we could do that. Does anybody want to say anything? Ask anything? Tell me what you feel. I like to hear you. I like to hear what you feel.
Okay, Melanie.
Yeah.
Which practice would you recommend towards the end of our life, or maybe even now, in order to make us most prepared for dying and seeing all that? Which would be the practice you would suggest?
There are lots of practices that you could do, okay? But I think that this prayer, I think if some of you start doing this prayer on at least a weekly basis, And you really, like Nikki, I loved your comment where you said, it's so simple and so beautifully put when you actually read the words. And these words are available for all of you. If you want them, you just ask Nadine. She's got them all for you. And I've got the prayer in English. And then I said to you last week, I've got it also in Tibetan. And it's really nice to do it in Tibetan. I want to see if I can't record it onto my phone, the Tibetan one. Then you can sometimes do the Tibetan and you can sometimes do the English. And they both have got a little bit of different translations. So they're quite difficult. But I think this prayer is really good. But also, Nick, once you ask that question, I think that, you know, the Bardo teachings, what I find about the Bardo teaching, I mean, I don't want to go on and on and on teaching the Bardo teachings because I think sometimes people get a bit bored or whatever the case is. But truly, 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 I can teach you. I'm studying a text, one of the texts from that blue casket, okay, on the Bardos. And like, it's like another language. And when I read 2 sentences of that text, I can contemplate for 2 hours afterwards. I'm just blown away. It's like a completely different understanding. Now, when you do the Bardo practices, okay, when you do the Bardo practices, that's also such a good thing. Like the Pawa practice, where you do the transfer of consciousness. Now, there are also even more things to do. I mean, I think that if you study Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche, I mean, his book, his teachings on the Bardos just blow you away. And that's also good enough. And I think that all of that prepares you so much because he puts a challenging statement to you. And a challenging statement is so amazing because you have to contemplate it for a long, long time to know. And for me, I was having this very serious chat with my husband yesterday. Okay, so we never have these serious spiritual chats, but because it was like we were at home and we weren't going out, and I was feeling I've got a nasal drip, I wasn't feeling so great. So I was sitting in my bed yesterday, something I never ever do. But we were really having a long chat, you know, about the practices, about everything. And he said to me, and what, Melanie, if you don't make it to where you're going? What if you just don't get it when you're in the Bardos? I said to him, you don't know me. I said to him, you know what? I am determined to get it. I don't care how many hours of contemplation. I don't care how many hours of practice. I don't care how many discussions I have. I don't care how many dreams I look at. I don't care. I will just do it until I get it. Now, I can see what happens when you actually study and even do a Vajrayana practice, Nikki, like if you're doing Chenrezi. I mean, if you really understand what you're doing, creation, recitation, dissolution, if you really understand that, that's the same process. Creating myself as something beautiful that I've just told you now. The mantra is using the energy of speech to actually take control of the energy around you instead of all the ugly noises and sounds. It's all the sounds of mantra, and then dissolving into your pure mind. Now we need to get this. We need to get this really, really properly so that we're not coming back on that wheel of life again. So I said to him, you don't know me. I must get it. I must get it before I go. I said to him, I must get it. And then once you're there, if you really, I mean, that's what Guru Rinpoche said. He said, it was actually Dajjam Rinpoche, who was one of his emanations. He said, if you truly understand this, then realization will inevitably come. Thank you. No, it is. It really, really is true. if you really understand it and you keep on working on it. It has to, because it's already inside you. Any other questions? Gavin, I don't know who you are, or do I know you, but maybe you wanted to ask something? No? Okay. Anyone else? All right, then what we're going to do, if nobody wants to ask or nobody wants to, it is very profound, but I think what Nikki said to me was, it's so simple when you really study the words. Now, what I'm going to do is, we're going to do a shamatha meditation, calm abiding, and then I'm going to switch on the English, and Bern's going to put the words on the screen for you. So Bern, not the ones we discussed, but the ones in that thing, okay? Then she's going to put it on the screen, and I want you to...
Sorry, do you want the English words or do you want the Tibetan words?
I want the English words. If we've got time at the end for the Tibetan, we can do it. Won't take very long, but we'll just do a little meditation, and then we'll go straight onto the words. And if you put them up, don't put them up until after the meditation. Just a short meditation, and then put them up, and then you can all watch that. But I want you not only to watch it, and I don't only want you to read it, I want you to really try and think about it. And then when you do it alone at home, you'll find an amazing understanding of it. So what Kuntuzangpo is doing is, he's saying, this is you. Get it. Get it now. This is you. Get off the wheel of life. Do not get hooked into the poisons. Do not get hooked into the realms. See the actual wisdoms and let it all be. And then you will liberate yourself. That is my awakened prayer, he says, for all of you. So, okay, let's start with just an ordinary shamatha meditation. And then we're going to go right through the song. Listening, I love this one very much, but just breathing in and out. And I just want you to have a moment where you actually allow, surrender, no matter what you're going through. Just surrender it. Know that whatever you are going through, it's all just part of this relative world we're in, this drama we're enacting. And it will all end and dissolve. So no need to panic, no need to fight. Just allow it all to be. And using the breath, those of you that don't need the breath anymore, just use space. Just use yourself being here. The past is gone. The future hasn't been made. And here we are in this very moment. Allow, allow, allow. Open, spacious. So I want you to contemplate as I play the words. Vern will put the prayer up and you can just contemplate it.
The prayer of Kuntuzangpo. Ho, everything, appearance and existence, samsara and nirvana, has a single ground, yet two paths and two fruitions, and magically displays as awareness or unawareness. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may all beings become Buddhas, completely perfected in the abode of the Dharma. The ground of all is uncompounded, and the self-arising great expanse, beyond expression, has neither the name samsara nor nirvana. Realizing just this, you are a Buddha. Not realizing this, you are a being wandering in samsara. I pray that all you beings of the three realms may realize the true meaning of the inexpressible ground. I, Kuntuzangpo, have realized the truth of this ground, free from cause and condition, which is just this self-arising awareness. It is unstained by outer expression in inner thought, affirmation or denial, and is not defiled by the darkness of unmindfulness. Thus, this self-manifesting display is free from defects. I, Kuntuzangpo, abide as intrinsic awareness. Even though the three realms were to be destroyed, there is no fear. There is no attachment to the five desirable qualities of sense objects. In self-arising consciousness, free of thoughts, there is neither solid form nor the five poisons. In the unceasing clarity of awareness, singular in essence, there yet arises the display of the five wisdoms. From the ripening of these five wisdoms, the five original Buddha families emerge, and through the expanse of their wisdom, the 42 peaceful Buddhas appear. Through the arising power of the five wisdoms, the 60 wrathful Herukas manifest. Thus the ground awareness is never mistaken or wrong. I, Kuntuzangpo, am the original Buddha of all. And through this prayer of mine, may all you beings who wander in the three realms of samsara realize this self-arising awareness, and may your great wisdom spontaneously increase. My emanations will continuously manifest in billions of unimaginable ways, appearing in forms to help you beings who can be trained. From the beginning, you beings are deluded because you do not realize the awareness of the ground. Being thus unmindful of what occurs is delusion, the very state of unawareness and the cause of going astray. From this delusive state comes a sudden fainting away, and then a subtle consciousness of wavering fear. From that wavering there arises a separation of self and the perception of others as enemies. Gradually the tendency of separation strengthens, and from this the circle of samsara begins. Then the emotions of the five poisons develop. The actions of these emotions are endless. You beings lack awareness because you are unmindful, and this is the basis of your going astray. Through my prayer, may all you beings recognize your intrinsic awareness. Innate unawareness means unmindfulness and distraction. Imputing unawareness means dualistic thoughts towards self and others. Both kinds of unawareness are the basis for the delusion of all beings. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may all you beings wandering in samsara clear away the dark fog of unmindfulness, clear away the clinging thoughts of duality. May you recognize your own intrinsic awareness. Dualistic thoughts create doubt. From subtle attachment to this dualistic turn of mind, dualistic tendencies become stronger, thicker. Food, wealth, clothes, homes and friends, the five objects of the senses and your beloved family. All these things cause torment by creating longing and desire. These are all worldly delusions. The activities of grasping and clinging are endless. When the fruition of attachment ripens, you are born as a hungry ghost, tormented by coveting and desiring, miserable, starving and thirsty. Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may all you desirous and lustful beings who have attachments neither reject longing desire nor accept attachment to desires. Let your consciousness relax in its own natural state, then your awareness will be able to hold its own. May you achieve the wisdom of perfect discernment. When external objects appear, the subtle consciousness of fear will arise. From this fear, the habit of anger becomes stronger and stronger. Finally, hostility comes, causing violence and murder. When the fruition of this anger ripens, you will suffer in hell by boiling and burning. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, you beings of the 6 realms, when strong anger arises for you, neither reject nor accept it. Instead, relax in the natural state and achieve the wisdom of clarity. When your mind becomes full of pride, there will arise thoughts of competition and humiliation. As this pride becomes stronger and stronger, you will experience the suffering of quarrels and abuse. When the fruition of this karma ripens, you will be reborn in the God realms and experience the suffering of change and fall into the lower rebirths. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may you beings who developed pride let your consciousness relax in the natural state. Then your awareness will be able to hold its own. May you achieve the wisdom of equanimity by increasing the habit of duality, by praising yourself and denigrating others. Your competitive mind will lead you to jealousy and fighting, and you will be reborn in the jealous God realm, where there is much killing and injury. From the result of that killing, you will fall into the hell realm. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, when jealousy and competitive thoughts arise, do not grasp them as enemies. Just relax in ease, then consciousness can hold its natural state. May you achieve the wisdom of unobstructed action. By being distracted, careless and unmindful, you beings will become dull, foggy and forgetful. By being unconscious and lazy, you will increase your ignorance, and the fruition of this ignorance will be to wander helplessly in the animal realm. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may you beings who have fallen into the dark pit of ignorance shine the light of mindfulness, and thereby achieve wisdom free from thought. All you beings of the 3 realms are actually identical to Buddhas, the ground of all. But your misunderstanding of the ground causes you to go astray, so you act without aim. The 6 karmic actions are delusioned like a dream. I am the primordial Buddha, here to train the 6 kinds of beings through all my manifestations. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may all you beings without exception attain enlightenment in the state of terma. Aho! Hereafter, whenever a very powerful yogin with his or her awareness, radiant and free from delusion, recites this very powerful prayer, then all who hear it achieve enlightenment within 3 lifetimes, during a solar or lunar eclipse, during an earthquake or when the earth rumbles, at the solstices or the new year. You should visualize Kuntuzangpo. And if you pray loudly so all can hear, then beings of the 3 realms will be gradually liberated from suffering through the prayer of the yogin and will finally achieve enlightenment.
So it sounds like a hell of a lot, but actually it's very repetitive in all that it does. And I think that when you get to say it on a regular basis, you stop and ponder all things. So let's go through the prayer, then I'll stop after each paragraph, and then you can asked me, don't put it up, Bern, because I want to see how they are. It doesn't really matter. Okay, but in the beginning, what he's saying is the basic reality of the ground of being transcends all duality. There's no samsara, there's no nirvana. They're just two paths and two fruits, either awareness or unawareness. That's your choice. Awareness or unawareness is your choice, which is very, very interesting, okay? And then he says, if you realize this, you are a Buddha. And if you don't realize this, you are a sentient being wandering in samsara. That's it. And then he says, I, Kuntuzangpo, have realized the meaning of this prayer. But Kuntuzangpo is not an external thing, it's you inside. He says, I've realized the true meaning of it, free from cause and condition. That's such an important sentence, because we really want to be free from cause and condition. That's what we're trying to go through. And when this prayer was given, amazing things can happen. Crops can grow, fertile periods, rain, solar eclipses, pandemics, especially if they're caused by, he says, by, what does he call it? He calls it pandemics that are caused by the spirits of disease. And I think ours is caused by the spirits of disease, the whole pandemic, because people are in such a bad way. I think it is caused it. He says, but what you've got to realize is that beautiful state is not obscured by the darkness of your unmindfulness. It's always there. You've just got to stop and do it. And he says, even though all these illusory spheres are destroyed, I don't have any fear. I don't have any attachment to the 5 desirable qualities, which are like wealth, food, family, all these things that we completely attach to. He says he doesn't have any attachment. He says in self-originating mind, there's no solid form and there are no poisons, okay? The luminous aspect of awareness is unceasing, he says, and that's how the primordial wisdoms exist. Now let's stop here and talk about that, because here comes the next thing. He says, from your primordial wisdoms, your 5 Buddha families, and your 5 Buddha families multiply, and they become 42 peaceful families. And then the 60 Harukas, the wrathful. When people say, what do you mean wrathful deities? Wrathful deities are just the part that says like, enough, come on, get on with it. I'm here to give you a fright. It's not that they're angry beings or anything like that. They're just the part of you that I say to myself, enough, I've had enough, get on with it. That all develops out of that. And he says, the original ground of awareness has never been deluded, never. Now think about that. No matter what people have done, even if they've committed murder, they've never tainted that original ground, never. So all of that comes out, and then he says, by my prayer, O sentient beings, may you realize self-originating awareness. Now that word self is a very interesting, it's not self. Self-originating means no causes. Anything that you see in any of these texts, which is self-something, self-originating, self-liberating, self-awareness, all of them don't mean awareness of the self. They mean it exists by itself. Okay, Tamika, no problem. Understand with all these crazy holidays. So, any questions, any comments, anything?
It seems to me that one just has to go on repeating this and repeating this and repeating this until it imprints it into the fabric of oneself all the time, like a mantra, like a
Love it. But
like
don't
a-
repeat it
oh.
like, yeah, but don't repeat it like in a rote way. I
No.
don't mind if you take one paragraph of this prayer and you just say one paragraph at a time. Because when it dawns on you, what is here? This is like Guru Rinpoche saying, listen, guys, I'm telling you, I'm giving you the recipe of who you really are. Take it seriously. Really digest it in your being, because this is who you are. And when you understand this, all your other rubbish falls away. It falls away. It really becomes unimportant. You know, things that were so important to you become important completely, because you realize none of this matters. It's just temporary, transient, not solid. And when you recognize the original ground. So let's go on. He says, you have been deluded, O Sartian beings, from the beginning because you didn't recognize the original ground. Now, why didn't we recognize the original ground? How did we go off? How did we go off?
Pure habit. It's pure habit.
Yeah, but how did we start the habit?
We separated ourselves from
Why? Why did we separate it? He tells you here.
Ego.
Ego. And we started to be afraid. You know, fear is at the base of all these 5 poisons. I mean, fear is at the base, which is so unbelievable, because he says we perverted this pure nature through 6 psychological neuroses. Now, that's such an interesting thing, because we attach to those neuroses. Now, if you look at all the 6 realms, have a look at their neuroses. The hell realm is neurotic fixation on anger. And then it starts off as a little anger. And then it goes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you land up in groups of angry people, or you land up causing violence, and then you're in prison, and then you're in a hell realm, and then you create that hell realm to match the poison. Now, when you understand that, the 6 psychological neuroses, the hell realm, where all people come together when they are in darkness and they can't, and they're angry and they're violent and they're disillusioned and all of those kind of things. You have a hell realm. Then you have a hungry ghost realm, which is a neurotic fixation. I want. Don't take it. Don't take it from me because I want it. Please, don't take it from me. It's mine. These are my children's things. These are my things. And that neurosis becomes a hungry ghost realm, where you're holding on to things, you're attaching to them. And the hungry ghost realm, you can see it in the human realm as well. You can see all of these in the human realm. Because when you are a hungry ghost, no matter what you are given, it will never be enough. It will never be enough. Now, if you look at these people who took control when we eliminated apartheid, and now it was over to people who took control. And because of their neurosis, because of their psychological neuroses, they wanted everything for themselves. So instead of saying, this is a wonderful time, now we can all share, let's learn from the people who knew. No, this is mine, and I want this, and I want Yes, and I want everything. I want absolutely everything. No, I don't care what I have to do to get it. I don't care if I steal, and I don't care if I do you in the very people who are in trouble. It's called a hungry ghost realm, which then goes into the human realm. It's never enough. When I hear the figures of people, like, I think to myself, I've never owned R1 million. I mean, these people own billions. I said, how much is a billion? 1,000 million is a billion. Who wants R1 billion? What do you want to do with R1 billion? They steal billions of rand and take it away from all the poor people. It's a realm. It's a psychological neurosis. Kuntuzangpo is talking about it. The human realm, I don't have to say much about, because you know, old age, sickness, Botox, dying, not accepting old age, not having enough. My wealth never extends. It's part of the hungry ghost realm. You need discerning wisdom for both of those realms. What's discerning wisdom? Number one, it's seeing that nothing is solid. Number two, it's actually seeing with the craving, attachment, and the passions. It's seeing none of these are really very important at all. It discerns. It cuts through that. And then you've got the, oh, sorry, I left out the animal realm after the hungry ghost. You've got the animal realm. Now the animals, some animals, if you look at mine, lying on the blankets in the sun, having bones and things like that, they haven't got such a bad life. But sometimes I see that little dog coming to me, who's as spoiled and indulged as they come. But he comes to me and he's going, and I know he's trying to tell me, listen, it's time for a walk. Listen, it's time for a snack. Listen. And nobody listens to them because they're in an ignorant realm, okay? Because they don't have a say for themselves. Some of them are better off. Some of them are in game reserves where they get eaten up. Some of them live in China and they get pulled to pieces and sold of all kinds of things, you know, no matter who they are. So the animal realm is an ignorant realm, a neurosis, which lots of people won't see the truth. Then they're living in an animal realm where they're not taking the choice. Then the human realm I spoke about, and then the jealous gods. You just have to sit at a match of your children and see the jealous god realm. Go, boy, go, win, get the medal, get the medal, get the medal, come on, you know, or somebody more beautiful than you, or somebody with a better house than you, and I want it. And the jealous realms, there's a whole philosophy, but I'm not talking about that now. That jealous God, competition, and doing your fellow human being in, that's a psychological neurosis. And the God realm, I mean, if any of you have read the mythology of the god realm, I mean, everything is beautiful. Olympus in his palace and all the beautiful gods and how exquisite they are and all the partners they have. And then it all comes to an end. And it's based on pride. I am better than everyone else, that takes them to the God realm. That's a neurosis. You just have to look in Hollywood. There's a God realm in Hollywood, okay, where everybody's beautiful and everybody's more beautiful than the next. And that neurosis, okay, in the end, when they die, is horrific because everybody disappears and they've got to then go to a lower realm. So it's no point in being in the beautiful God realm. Better than being in the hell realm, but no point, because in the end you suffer so badly. So those are your psychological neuroses. And he says this unclear state, fear comes into being, and then you're clinging, and then the tendency grows, and then the 5 poisons develop. And the karma of these 5 poisons, he says, that fearful insecurity leads to alienation, which is being on the wheel of life, the wheel of samsara, and the wheel is driven by the poisonous emotions that create karmas, constantly reinforcing their habit propensity that drive the wheel. You just don't get off it. So difficult. And he says, please recognize your own awareness so that you can get off it. And then he talks about ignorance. And I just want to say in it, he says, co-emergent unawareness and conceptual unawareness. Those are the two forms of ignorance that he talks about. The one is your innate ignorance of who you are. That's like innate. When we left the Garden of Eden, we left our pure state. And that innate ignorance is what is really inside us. It's called co-emergent unawareness. He talks about it. And then he talks about, in that co-emergent unawareness, our essence is absent. Our essence is not there anymore. It's absent. It's called the absence of presence. And the second type of ignorance, which is conceptual unawareness, means we are locked into the prison of thought forms. We're locked into it. We are locked into the prison of our thought forms. So everything is a concept. Everything locks us in and makes us deluded. Okay. Then he goes on in the second half to dualistic mind, when I see you as separate, is called doubt. Okay. Then the clinging. Then the habitual tendencies, food, wealth, clothes, your home and companions and your sense pleasures and your loved ones. You're tormented by your desire for all these enjoyable things to which you are attached. Okay, now if you just look at the sexual problems on our planet, I mean, there are so many people who see other people as an object of their sexual desire, and they have no control over that whatsoever. And until they are satisfied, they don't care. Rape, whatever the consequences are, they have that desire. And he says here, you're tormented by your desire to which you are attached. And he says, when the fruit of clinging ripens, you're born a hungry ghost, tormented by craving. And he says here, you are hungry and thirsty. How terrible, he says. Because in the hungry ghost realm, you're always looking. When you want to eat, you see this beautiful, what do you call those things in the distance? Mirage. You see this beautiful mirage. You go towards it and then it disappears. That's how your mind is. You are hungry and thirsty. And he says, don't reject the yearning of desire. Don't cling to your desire. Just relax your mind. Do nothing. Accept it and let it come up. And that is how you will attain discerning wisdom. You'll know the difference. You'll know the difference. Discerning wisdom tells you this is all temporary. This is all transient. This is nothing. Okay. And then he goes on to the anger and the violence and the enemy and the killing and suffering in hell. And he says, oh, by my prayers, sentient beings of the six realms. And remember, when you reinforce your anger, the propensity grows and it leads to violence and killing. So interesting, because I've got a couple of children in counseling and I have to do it on Zoom and it's not easy, but I've got them in counseling and you could see the angry momentum in these kids that comes from previous lifetimes. Now, it is so important when their dad says, you know what, I'm getting a boxing thing for you. And when you go into your boxing, when you go into your, whatever you call those things that you buy, when you go into there, get that anger out, punch it, punch it, punch it. That's what the father buys them, that so he can get all his anger out. So bad, because all you're doing is increasing the propensity of the habit of anger. You're not helping it. You're helping it when you recognize it right at the beginning of your anger. You let it come up, you let it dissolve, and you see it's not solid, and you recognize your clinging, which makes you angry. You're clinging to a partner, which makes you jealous. You're clinging to your desirable things that you want, which makes you proud, which makes you all these sort of things. You recognize that and you say, hang on a moment. I've got this propensity. It's a deep habit. And I need to clear it out, because if you die with those propensities really strong, it just catapults you into another life like that, into the hungry ghost, into sometimes when I look at beggars, really bad beggars, crawling along the street with their backs bent. I mean, your heart goes out to them. But I often look and I say, oh my goodness, your karma is your own created stuff. It's not that you're there, an innocent victim of things. You're there because of the habit propensity that you created. And he says the same thing with pride and the fighting and quarreling and arrogance. Arrogance, where you're born in the God realm. And he says, so you get all three things, envy and jealous, to the jealous God realm. That's the competitive realm. And you need to know that it's really action accomplishing wisdom. And what is interesting is also with ignorance and delusion. He says you'll be born in the animal realm. You'll be in a fog, unconscious, lazy, and ignorant. And he says, by my prayer, the Buddha for you, who are sinking in the darkness of ignorance, may the radiance of luminous mindfulness shine, and may you attain non-conceptual primordial wisdom. That's what he says in it. And the non-conceptual primordial wisdom means the wisdom of reality, without concepts, without being locked into all of that. And he says, all you sentient beings are actually the same as me, but your unawareness led you into these things. He says, and I, the original Buddha, trained the 6 types of being through my emanation, and may you attain enlightenment. And then he ends the prayer by saying, Aho, whenever a being who really understands this prayer imagines himself to be Kuntuzangpo and recites it during a solar or lunar eclipse, during an earthquake, I add in during a pandemic, or when the earth rumbles, or at the solstices, visualize yourself at Kuntuzangpo. And if you then recite this for all to hear, all sentient beings of the 3 realms, because of the practitioner's prayer, will gradually be liberated from suffering and ultimately attain Buddhahood. So it's just so clear with the first half, showing us how our ignorance veils us. And the second half showing us how if we allow the poisons to carry on and on and on, eventually we have a new psychological, neurotic fixation with that negative emotion. And that causes you great suffering. Although it doesn't touch your Buddha nature, but if you don't know about your Buddha nature, it causes you terrible suffering. Okay, so I've done a lot of talking with this bad voice of mine. So let me hear quickly, we've just got a couple of minutes and then we'll end. What do you want to ask? What do you want to say? It's profound, isn't it? Fiona, are you okay? Because you came from work today, I know. You're okay.
Actually, I'm on leave. I'm okay, but I've still got that feeling behind it all. If we are that being, and I'm not arguing, I believe we are that quality.
Okay.
But the thing that always bothers me is, but then why did we separate? It's the why. It's not the how, it's the why. And I just can't understand if we are that infinite, when even infinite, it's beyond infinite presence,
why would we
why
go?
on earth would we descend into this? I don't, you know, that always puzzles me slightly.
You see, it's such an interesting question because it's absolutely a true question. But you know, if you answer that question with another question, why are people not satisfied when they have enough? Okay, now think about that. Okay, I'm sitting here with two people in my shrine room today, and both of them, you know, both of them have struggled with what they've had to do. But it's funny, both of them feel they have enough. Now, what happens when you don't feel that you have enough? I call it the empty barrel syndrome. So you're looking at another person. We'll talk about it next time. You can get the tape, but you're looking at another person. And I watch this with people. I was watching a couple going like, you do this. And he said, and you do that. And she said, well, then what are we doing together? And he said, you're always doing this. And I'm just looking and I'm thinking, two empty barrels. Why can't we stop and see that what we have is such a beautiful blessing in every relationship that we have? One is going to be amazing sexually, physically, attractive. Another one's going to be amazing financially and not in the physical sense. Another one's going to be amazing for this, but not in that. Why isn't enough? Isn't it enough? Because we're living in a desire realm that is over this desire realm. Amitabha presides over the human desire realm. So it feels to people it isn't enough. Let's go and look somewhere else. Maybe we'll get more. And of course, the more is an illusion. It's like a mirage. Okay? So the point of the matter is that when you actually look at this, that's what caused it. If you think of the story, of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, I mean, there was never an Adam and Eve, but Adam and Eve represented us. Okay, now they had everything in the Garden of Eden. They had fruit, they had this, they had that, they had all that they wanted. Okay, but they went to look somewhere else. You know, when she offered him the apple to bite, she said to me, no, I think there's a little more out there. Okay. So he bites into it. What's he biting into? He's biting into the ego. I could do this on my own and I could separate out and I might be better. And they start separating. And then what does religion do? Religion makes it a thing of this God over there who banishes you. Not you yourself who've got the God inside of you banish yourself, but the God banishes you. So then God becomes the being that either blesses you or gives you great problems, let's say, to be polite. Okay. So the thing is, it starts becoming a whole dualistic thing. And then we wander out of that beautiful, when you look at the Garden of Eden was no fantasy. The Garden of Eden is the pure expression out of the essence, which is the way it's supposed to be. Now, those of you who were at my group the other night, when the Buddha put his toe on the ground, he showed them how a pure land looks. And that's what Tulku Urchin keeps saying. You're living in a pure Buddha field, but you can't see it. So the Buddha showed everyone who was sitting there what it really looked like, what a real pure Buddha field looked like. Okay. And then he took his toe away and then they were back to their impure vision. So, I mean, we couldn't see in the Garden of Eden that this is enough. We've got everything we need. We've got our being. We haven't got duality. We've got no wars. We've got no anything. But it wasn't enough. And you just have to look at all the nations of the world and at all people. It's never enough. Whatever house you're in, you want a better house. Whatever car you drive, you want a better car. Whatever relationship you're in, you want somebody who's got A, B, and C, not just A and B. And what we don't realize is we created these circumstances with our imprints. Now we've got to get beyond them, and I'll talk about that next time. But this prayer, the beautiful perfection of Kuntuzangpo, tells us everything. And I would like all of you to get the prayer from Nadine. You can also ask Bern, especially you in Australia. From Nadine, get the prayer, and she's got the English. And then if any of you really want the Tibetan, then I will record that. I think, just record it on my phone and send it if you'd like to do it. And Bern has typed up the one for the Tibetan, the translation, and the one for the English. So I've got everything for you that you want. And then you've got to sit and really work with it. And I'm just telling you that if you're going to meditate at night, let's say, or even in the morning, and you just recite this prayer on your phone, and you really look at the lines, and you really have the motivation that I am Kuntuzangpo, and this is how I can help the planet. It does amazing, amazing things. It's got the terma energy in it of Guru Rinpoche. You're very quiet, all of you, I must say. And Gavin and Evelyn, I hope you two are okay. I haven't seen you here before, so I don't know, maybe you have been.
Hello,
But
Melanie.
you know,
Sorry, I know you from a long time ago, and we just joined you for your prayer today. So
oh,
Gavin and I
that's
will
so nice. Well, come
yes,
again.
we
love
shall for sure.
Yeah, because there's so much, I do a Monday morning and a Tuesday evening, just not tomorrow. But I can also put you on my broadcast group so that you get all the notification of, what talks we're having and everything.
Yeah, we do. I'm certainly on your mailing list already, and it's so much easier via Zoom. It's much easier to participate. So I fear we shall be back.
Oh, I don't fear. I love it. The point is, what's happened is that it's very interesting that with the Zoom, today they're quite quiet because it is a bit overawing, this prayer. But you know what? People have just gotten relaxed about being on the Zoom, and they talk and share and butt in and everything. And it's actually become very easy. I'm not sure I want to travel to the center. Definitely not at night, it's just sort of so easy to do it.
Yeah, you're going to reach your millions sooner than you know.
No, it doesn't happen like that, and I'll tell you why. Because it's so like, I try and do very, very, very topics. You can ask them. I never do the same topic. Sometimes I think there's a whole lot more. I really research a lot of stuff and read a lot of text so that it's always different in some way, never the same old stuff. And that's difficult, but it's interesting because people will come and they'll say, oh, I love it. And I'm coming again. And they may come twice, they may come 3 times, and then goodbye, you don't see them again, So it doesn't reach as many. When we have a Lama, then we get like 100 people coming, but it's amazing. People are not that committed and dedicated. But anyway, it's lovely. Listen, we have 25 to 30 people in the groups, and that's a good attendance, for ongoing things. So it's lovely. Yes. Can I just close, Ruth, and then leave it? Oh, okay, you quickly do yours because some people need to.
No, very briefly, I'd just like to say, although you say it's all very new and very different, the point is that it all ties up.
Exactly.
And it's holistic in that sense if one attends a lot of them. That's
yeah. No, it really does. And Evelyn, they're all recorded so people can get them now, whatever they want, all the topics and everything, and it's easy to get them and listen. And that's really my way that I can leave something, that is done, and it's really nice. Anyway, so let's dedicate, and then if anybody wants to ask me anything, you're very, very welcome. So Bern, just put the dedication. good in English. Through the virtue of this goodness may I obtain omniscience and overcome all adversity, thereupon liberating beings from the ocean of existence, which is rocked by the waves of birth, aging, sickness, and death. Sonam die tamche zipane topne nepe dranam pamshene jeganachi balak tropaye sipe sole doa dro warsho. So I'm very happy to answer any questions.